Right, the winds of winter are upon us, but the heat from down under will be felt very, very strongly, will be very, very ominous as India take on Australia in the marquee event of 2020 in terms of country and bilateral series tournaments. It does not get bigger than this. It does not get better than this when India take on Australia. I am joined by Sandipan Banerjee. At this point of time, the two of us are going to do our best to preview this extraordinary series that is up and coming. We've got a good spread of white ball and red ball cricket, and it's going to be a whole lot of excitement, a whole lot of fun, and we'll be there previewing and reviewing all of that. Sandipan, it's going to be a big, big series. There's been a whole lot of chatter about it. There's been a whole lot of conversations about it, but come Friday, it's go time, and it's going to be a cracker of the series.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any India-Australia encounter is a mouth-watering contest,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting a very high-profile series because I think after in the post-COVID era, I think this is going to be the first high-profile series. I mean, India touring Australia. Unfortunately, I was supposed to be there, but due to the lockdown and all, I'm now doing this preview instead of from Sydney Cricket Ground. I'm doing this preview from my room, but that's fine. I think we have. I think it's going to be a very huge series for both the teams actually.
100%. I think with changing times, you have to pivot with them, and we're obviously doing our best. And so will Team India and Australia. Look, for both of them, this series matters a whole lot. Of course, from a revenue aspect, a big deal for Australia when India comes down. There's a whole lot of money in play, but also strategically, Australia, when they host India, they have their tails up. They want to win every single game. But this time, the narrative is very, very different, Sandeep. And we have the assistant coach of Australia coming out and saying short pitch bowling won't trouble our batsmen. There's a whole lot of conversation there. We won't sledge Virat. We won't do this to that person. So the conversation this time is very different to how it is usually when India go down to Australia. Team India a much stronger threat this time to Australia's chances in the tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you see the recent records, I think Team India is probably the most competitive team in Down Under. What are the other teams? What are their other England? South Africa maybe, but I think overall India have been the most competitive team over the years in Australia. Even I can remember India winning a T20 series over there 3-0. So that's a huge achievement for a subcontinental team to go down to Australia and beat them, and 3-0. I think this team, I know, because all these players are fresh from IPL, so I guess this team, at least in the limited overs format, will be highly competitive.
Yeah, let's take a look at the schedule quickly. I mean, you've got 3 ODIs, 3 T20Is, and 4 Test match games. Now, Sandipan and I are obviously a little biased towards the red ball side of the game, but before that, we have this small matter of 3 ODIs, 3 T20Is. Sandipan, it's a good thing that we have a whole spread of cricket, right? It's not just you go in, then there's jet lag, there's your bio bubble scenario, and you go to play Test cricket. That does not really add up to the excitement in this now. You have some time for the players to get accustomed to not just eventually going and doing their best in Test cricket, but also this is a good time for them to prepare as well for a number of important tournaments coming up in the future. You have the T20 World Cup coming up as well. So keeping that in mind, strategically, an important white ball series for India beginning with the ODIs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if you can remember, when India toured New Zealand before the World Cup in 2019, in the early part of 2019, at that point, Ravi Shastri, the Indian coach, he said that they are using the T20Is as a preparation for the ODI World Cup. Yes. So now we might see the vice versa. Now they might use these 3 ODIs in Australia as a preparation for their next T20 World Cup. For example, we might see KL Rahul keeping the wicket, which I believe is probably not a long-term option in the ODIs, but considering that we have two T20 World Cups back-to-back now, and I think in the T20 setup, KL Rahul fits in really well. So probably they will try out KL Rahul in the 50-over format, at least in this series as well. We might see some of the, some of the bowlers will get a go. So yeah, I mean, I think these three ODIs, this ODI series, this 3-match ODI series will be very important for India's preparation going ahead towards the towards the future and all these important ICC events.
Sandipan went right there towards the topic of discussion, straight away towards the wicket-keeping conundrum, which he wrote about as well on cricketnews.com. Go check it out. But the part of the bigger conversation when it comes to KL Rahul, of course, is the squad in general. There have been a whole lot of conversations about this, Sandipan, about the selection. People have been upset about Surya Kumar Yadav not being a part of it. There was a shout for Akshar Patel as well. A number of conversations about this, but that is a given in Indian cricket. Whenever the squad gets picked, there are a number of different opinions, but all said and done, a very strong squad has now travelled to Australia and will be taking part in the ODI series. First, what are your first impressions of this team, Sandipan?
I think India will go into the series as favourites. And good to see Shikhar Dhawan is back. So he's, he will be, I think in Australian conditions, he will be an ideal batsman. He can take the, he can play on the play the hook and pull shot really well.
Yeah, it's like
he
a second
play,
home.
And obvious and literally it's his second home.
It is.
And on Australian pitches, I think he can take on those Aussie bowlers during the power play. So Shikhar Dhawan, good to see him back, and considering the form he was in the IPL, at least towards the second half of the IPL, if he can carry that form in Australia, that will be immensely beneficial for the Indian team. I also would like to see how Mayank plays in the and at which position he bats if he plays. I'm more interested to see how Shreyas Iyer fits in the scheme of things. Because in the T20 World Cup he will be an important player going ahead. So I guess he needs some sort of he needs to be in a comfort zone as well. The team management needs to look after him as well. I'm a bit disappointed that Rishabh Pant is not there. But as Ganguly said yesterday, that Pant probably is going through a bad phase, and it happens to every young cricketer. He just needs some time out of the game, and once the bat swing comes back, then he will be back in the group, back in the scheme of things as well. So overall, I'm very excited about this series. I'm eagerly waiting to see the strategies, the mini games which you see, the matches inside the matches, actually, as they say. So these mini games I'm actually very much interested.
100%, and that's also because we are suddenly moving from a T20 jet lag or a lag in T20 action. We've had it for so long a time, such a long a time, and now we're suddenly going to 50-over cricket. I don't know about you, but when it often happens to me when I watch a whole bunch of T20 cricket and there's 50-over cricket that comes after it, it takes a little bit of time for me to adjust to watching it because it takes longer for one innings to happen for obvious reasons. And you'd like to think it will be the case for the players as well, how they can adapt from a T20 format that they've been playing for a good month and a half, 2 months, to now suddenly changing their strategies a bit to suiting, the 50-over format, which is a different format, to say the least.
Absolutely, and that's why the break which our Indian team has got after the IPL, and that will be beneficial. And good. It's good that the Indian team, despite being in quarantine, they are allowed to practice. So they are having this session, next session, and all in Sydney. So that will help them to acclimatize and to get into the grooves of 50-over cricket. So yeah, I think they will probably approach it as it approach T20s. Approach the 50-over tournament as they used to. But I think probably the IPL hangover will be there. You cannot count it out. I mean, you have been playing that format for the last 2.5 months. You just cannot count change overall. So maybe towards the death overs, we might see those kind of innovative innovative bowling, those kind of death bowling. And I think nowadays actually the players, top international players, they tend to take 50 over format is an extended version of T20s.
Yeah,
That's why
that's
we
correct.
see the big scores like 350s and 370s teams scoring quite easily. And Australian pitches, those are the batting paradise. I mean, especially at Sydney and Canberra. I think where the ODIs will take place. So I guess it is going to be a high scoring series. I think India will go into the series as favorites.
Let's take a quick look at the squad again, Sandipan. I mean, you look at the top six, the potential top six in the batting order. You'd like to think that Mayank Agarwal will probably come in as a like-for-like replacement for Rohit Sharma, who is the major absentee and a talking point that we will come to a little later. But if you take a look at that top six, you're looking at Shikhar Dhawan, you're looking at Mayank Agarwal, Virat Kohli, Shreyas Iyer, KL Rahul batting at 5, something that Team India have done so far. Hardik coming in at 6 and Jadeja at 7, which is a top 7 or a top 6 and a 7, which is as good as it can get. So in conditions like this, an incredible top order for India to head into this series with.
Absolutely solid top 6, I would rather say.
Yeah.
But I think in at least in Australia, someone like KL Rahul, who is good at playing those horizontal bat shots, I think he should be better suited at opening the innings. But I don't think he will do that because he has now settled down to number 4 and 5 in ODIs. But in Australia, in those conditions, I think he will be better suited if we can open the innings and if someone can like Mayank can bat down the order.
He's in the form of his life, isn't he? Purple patch, absolute purple patch. You don't want to waste someone like that towards the middle, don't you? But then a set format has been set in the ODIs where you're having Rahul coming in at 5, because when Rohit comes back, he's going to walk into this team with the form that he's been last couple of years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing that you'd like to take a look at is the bowling, Sandipan. And here's a bit of a worry that I think India will have is the lack of bowling all-rounders. Now, you look at that all-rounders column and you see just 2 names, which is Hardik Pandya and Ravindra Jadeja. And Jadeja is the only bowling all-rounder at the moment because Hardik has not bowled at all throughout the IPL. Do you think that's a concern? Because we might go in with 5 bowlers with that one option, but then if 1 or 2 don't have a good day, then we're suddenly looking for options on the field.
Absolutely. Even there are not even enough part-timers as well in this Indian team, and that's a very worrying factor. And if you compare it to Australia, they have the likes of Stoinis, they have like Maxwell can chip in, everyone else. I mean, So if any of their main premier bowlers is having an off day, there are options to replace it. But here for Indian team, it will be tough. So I think that is one factor where team management needs to look at maybe in the longer run.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's important that we obviously talk about Rohit Sharma, big absentee. There's so much conversation around him in the last couple of weeks, in the last couple of months, to be honest, since the time of the IPL. But for good reason, because he's been absolutely incredible. In the last couple of years, his numbers are quite extraordinary. And Sandipan, if you talk about the ODI format, without Rohit, India have a win percentage of around 40 to 50, but with him, it jumps to almost about 70%. So you'd like to think that one person does not really have a huge impact on the result, but in this case, Rohit has been a big addition to this ODI team, hasn't he?
Yeah, obviously Rohit will be missed, and even more than as a batsman, his presence on the field, on the dressing room is also a huge factor for this team. So aspect I think we should not forget. So I think the way the whole issue though was handled, I think probably it was not properly handled. Maybe on point of BCCI, maybe their medical team, because if you are planning to send him to Australia, then you should have coordinated with the Mumbai Indians physios, with the physios in the Mumbai Indians, and planned it out as accord. In that case,
Yeah.
it hasn't happened, and now I think I'm afraid that he will probably miss the first two test matches as well. I think it is confirmed also, because now
Yeah, pretty much.
once he fly down to Australia, he have to be. If he flies down to Australia, then he needs to be in quarantine for 14 days. So he'll miss the, he missed the warm-up matches, and without
Yeah.
playing a warm-up match, I don't think he will get into the playing 11 for the test match. So probably he will miss the first two test matches as well.
And also, you can't rush into these tournaments, right? At the end of the day, it's a big series, and you can't expect somebody to get off a plane and get onto the pitch and score 100 walking into a test series, let alone anything else. So
Exactly, especially in test matches. Especially in test matches.
Absolutely. Ishan Sharma is the other absentee, of course, but then his impact down under has been quite incredible in recent years. But the major
I
conversation.
think more than Rohit, Ishan will be missed. I think more than Rohit, I think Ishan will be missed in the test team.
100%, without a shadow of a doubt. He's been a mainstay, and in the last couple of years under Rohit, his stats have been absolutely off the charts. So a huge miss. But then we'll come to that when we talk about the test series, before the test series. Now again, putting our attention to the ODI series. It's easy for us, Sandipan, to get ahead of ourselves and talk about the test series because we're all waiting for that. Let's just be honest. But before that, small matter of white ball cricket. Turning your attention towards the Australia squad, Sandipan, before we sign off.
Yeah, white ball formalities, I would rather say.
White ball formalities, but let us get done with that. The Australia squad, Sandipan, I'm just going to read that out to you. Of course, big additions this time will be the presence of Stephen Smith and David Warner. They were not around the last time India went to Australia. Their absence was felt, it was clear, but this time both of them are coming into this team. I don't know about you, but I think Steve Smith is the best in the world in red ball cricket, not so much as a white ball player, but still his presence will certainly be of value. The other important players, of course, are you got Manas Labuschagne, you have Alex Carey into the team, Peter Hanscombs, the backup keeper, Pat Cummins, Josh Hazelwood, Kane Richardson, Mitch Stark, Adam Zampa. So this is a team that is full of superstars. It's no pushover. Australia have made that transition under Langer. A couple of years they did struggle, but now they're back into the thick of things, aren't they?
Yep, absolutely. Even when they played against India in the last series, they were highly competitive. Even I can remember just before the World Cup, they came to India for a 3-match ODI series, and that too without Warner and Smith. They went on to win that game, win that series.
Yeah.
So I guess
Maxwell in Bangalore, not outstanding. Yeah, I remember that game.
Yep. So obviously they are not pushover. And someone like Maxwell, who is due for runs, I think he will be. Even recently, when they went to England, they beat the world champions at their own day, and that was a full strength English side. Yeah. So I guess Australia will not be far behind than India, but still, I do believe that because of the IPL experience and. I think the Indians will start the ODI series as favorites, but not much. I mean, it's maybe 52-48 or something like that.
Probably, yeah. The only thing I think would come into play is apart from David Warner, you don't see a lot of the others who had a great run in the IPL. Apart from Warner, you look at the others and you look at Finch, who did not really have a great IPL. You look at Maxwell, who nothing great at all. Stoinis did have a good IPL, but he's not a part of the ODI squad, if I remember correctly. So probably India getting in some form. The Indian squad did reasonably well in the IPL as compared to Australia. Probably that will give them the edge.
Yeah, but let's not forget the Stark and Cummings pair. I mean,
at home,
the way Cummings, at home. So and they will be backed up by Hazelwood. So that is a one. That opening spell you need to play out. I mean, you cannot. It will be very hard for the Indian team to go after them in the power play.
Yeah, a number of incredible
the way
matchups.
Cummings had.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, especially the way Cummings had bowled on those dead pitches in the UAE, and now he will get the bounce in his favor, and he will make the Indian batsman He will try out. He will test the Indian batting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these guys are fantastic at home, without a shadow of a doubt. And the way you've seen them train as well on social media, there have been a number of clips coming out. They've been practicing and training for a number of days heading into this series, and you like to think that it's going to be an absolutely incredible contest. A lot of fantastic matchups, notable absentees, of course, but India looking very, very strong. That's our verdict on cricketnews.com, and we'll be around throughout the series previewing these big games. Sandipan, before we go, your quick predictions for the game on Friday. It's happening in Sydney, the first ODI series of this India versus Australia series. What are the things that you'll be looking out for first, and your quick predictions?
I'll be looking out for the, obviously, I think a chasing team will have a huge advantage in Sydney, considering the considering the conditions. So whoever will chase, probably I believe they will went on to win the game. And both teams have, both teams very good. Both teams are actually very good chasing sides. So that is one factor. Another factor I'll be looking at is how David Warner bats. Because in the IPL we have seen some sort of different version of David Warner, where he allowed Johnny West to attack, or some Riddhiman Saha to attack, where he played the second fiddle. But now in the ODI series, I would love to see whether he can continue can continue his approach, or he will just go the way we know David Warner does. So that's another aspect I would like to look into it.
Yeah, there'll be a big talking point. Of course, a number of talking points, a number of matchups, a whole lot to look out for in this series. And the other thing that obviously you can look out for is cricketnews.com's coverage of India's tour to Australia.
Another important factor.
Oh yeah, sorry, we're not going yet. Sandipan has another point. Go on, Sandipan.
No, I think in this post-Dhoni era, how KL Rahul does with the gloves. I mean,
we have to talk about this.
How he manages with the gloves. Yeah, how he manages with the gloves and bat. Because, I still believe that in the 50-over format, KL Rahul is not exactly the long-term option, because obviously eventually Rishabh will take that place. But and also let's not forget that KL Rahul is an important all-format batsman for India. So maybe we might see the extra burden of extra responsibility of keeping might have some sort of impact on his batting. And obviously we don't want any other Irfan Pathan, because we have seen in the past what happened if one player tries to do too many things. So obviously we don't want another Irfan Pathan here. So I guess I'll closely follow how KL Rahul goes about his business. Obviously he is the only keeper in this ODI team, so he will keep. But even I believe that even in the T20 team, though Sanju Samson is there, but I think KL Rahul will keep wickets over there, like it happened in New Zealand.
Yeah, 100%, and it's going to be a challenge.
But overall, how he manages his workload. So I will be more 100%. Interested to see overall how he manages his workload. So
100%, yeah, absolutely. I think it's also the beginning of another cycle for Team India. It's cricket has stopped; it's beginning again. So how this is the start of another project, or if you'd like, if you don't want to call it a resumption, it's a start again. So it'll be interesting to see what are the plans that India put into place, because KL Rahul looked like a contingency plan to Rishabh Pant not firing and not the first choice option for India. But now it has looked like that accommodates the space for another specialist batsman. But it'll be interesting to see. There'll be a whole lot of talking points, and we'll get more clarity on this and a whole bunch of things as well as the series of course unfolds in front of us, and we bring you a whole bunch of things from the series, including our previews of every single game. Sandipan Banerjee, thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you, and it's always a pleasure to bring cricketnews.com's coverage to you guys. My name is Sumedh. Stay tuned.